Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, and I am very pleased to welcome back my co hosts who have been out of the country for pretty much most of July. It is Ken Fang, the associate editor of sports blog Awful Announcing. Ken, welcome back. Thank you for joining me once again on this Sunday evening. And how was your vacation?
Well, I have to say, Stephen, I went to my native land of Taiwan first. Great to see relatives who I haven't seen in a very long time. Then I went to your native land of Japan. Got to see the Yomiuri Giants in the Tokyo Dome. I have to recommend seeing a Japanese baseball game, the Nippon Baseball League. I would definitely recommend that to everyone. Also got to see a sumo wrestling demonstration. There was a big sumo wrestling tournament going on while I was there, and really, I would definitely have to recommend. Don't go during the summer though; very hot, as you very well know, Stephen. But it was a lot of fun. We were supposed to get together last week, however, I had a personal situation I had to take care of. But I'm happy to be here with you this week. We have a lot of things to catch up on. I know Stephen wants to talk about a little bit about the Bears who played today in a tie to the Miami Dolphins in preseason. I want to talk about Shedeur Sanders, who played pretty well in his debut on Friday, and a lot of other things we have to catch up on. So, Stephen, I leave it to you.
While you were gone, obviously, the biggest news we'll catch up with. One of them, of course, is the death of Hulk Hogan. And, we had a conversation about this a couple of times with our past guest, Tommy. I forgot who we had. It was with somebody, Joseph Yoon. We had him on from A to Z Sports, among other things we were able to talk about. You being a pretty big wrestling fan, I should say, Ken. I want to know your thoughts and perspective on his career and the complicated legacy that he kind of leaves behind with with the sex tape lawsuit with was it
Gawker.
Gawker, and then the N word stuff that kind of follow him around in pretty much until his death, pretty much.
I think for older fans, I think they hold him in high regard, Stephen, for what he did for wrestling. He helped to bring wrestling into the mainstream with the Rock and Wrestling connection with Cyndi Lauper. WrestleMania, there's no WrestleMania without him. He was big in several WrestleManias in the first two decades. With Mr. T getting celebrities in there in the very first one, wrestling the Ultimate Warrior, also wrestling The Rock. So he spanned several generations. So if you just go by his wrestling, there's no doubt of his impact. But later on in life, and this is where a lot of younger the Gen Z, the millennials have problems with him, where of course is racism, and of course the fact that he also didn't have a relationship with his daughter. They were pretty much estranged. Um, I really feel that for me, Hulk Hogan is properly labeled as a racist. Properly labeled in some of the issues. Of course, he Peter Thiel. Remember that he was the one that helped to bring down Gawker in the sex tape lawsuit that brought down basically what was Deadspin and the whole Gawker empire. Um, so I really I'm not a fan of Hulk Hogan. Even though that I feel that what he did for wrestling was tremendous, but I just I just can't get past the legacy that he had later on in life, Stephen. And that's anyone who is a big fan and just wants to ignore that. That's on them. But I have to agree with the younger generation that I can't be a fan of Hulk Hogan. And the fact is that his last appearance in January on Raw at Netflix, he was heavily booed in Los Angeles, and that's I think that he'll have to remember that. I mean, he remembered that it bothered him, according to Jimmy Hart, who is his friend, who was a wrestling manager back in the '80s and '90s. But I think that it should bother him because he wasn't as popular as he thought he was, and I think that's something that he had to live with until he died just last month.
Yeah, I think it's okay to celebrate Hulk Hogan as a wrestler. Obviously, his real name in real life is Terry Bollea,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, Hulk Hogan outside, I should say, is Terry Bollea. The
Belaya.
That's, yeah, and it unfortunately, we can criticize Terry Bollea, the person, that obviously leaves a complicated legacy of the Gawker, the sex tape, estrangement with his daughter Brooke Hogan over the N-word, and the dating of an African American man, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, we can put those two things separately, right?
Mhm. Well, it's kind of tough because Hulk Hogan is a public figure, and I understand that he had his opinions as Terry Bollea, but a lot of
Mhm.
those opinions came out as Hulk Hogan. So I think that's an issue. Like I said, I'm not a fan of his, especially how he managed to bring down Gawker in that way. I am also feeling that his estrangement with Brooke Hogan and his really openness in saying the N word is just something that I really can't get past, to be honest with you, Stephen. And like I
No.
said, I know that I know that Hulk Hogan the wrestler and Hulk Hogan the man. Um, but that's the issue. He said them as Hulk Hogan. So I don't think he didn't say I'm Terry Bollea. He wasn't secretly taped. It came out. So I just think that like I said, I think the older generation holds him in high regard for his stuff what he did with wrestling. There was no doubt I was a fan when I was back when I was younger in my 20s and 30s. But now, as I see him in his later life, I really stopped. My fandom stopped, and yes, I can look back at his wrestling days with fondness, but also I can also think back that I can now look back and think back and root against those wrestlers that he wrestled back in the old days, knowing the result. But still, I'm not a fan, and will never be a fan going forward.
Mhm. Yeah, WWE seems to have, has its own issues, for the most part. They
Absolutely,
just brought back
Brock
uh,
Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar, who was, under the investigation for the sexual lawsuit that was levied, brought by
Well,
Miss
Grant.
Janelle Grant.
Yeah, it was bought by Janelle Grant against Vince McMahon. Now, while Brock Lesnar is not named in the lawsuit, it was enough for the WWE to suspend him and not bring him back. But I guess WWE legal felt it was good enough to bring him back in SummerSlam a couple of weeks ago. So again, this is WWE. They're not going to be known for moral compass, Stephen. Um,
Yeah,
it's run by TKO, which is more concerned about money right now than it is
right.
anything else. Um, you know, are there good things that WWE does for charity and Make a Wish? Yes, it does. But I think a lot of times that those are for photo ops right now, and we have to look at what TKO is doing um, with Nick Khan and the people who
Right.
are TKO. Um, Nick Khan right now just is worried about content and how things look, and the bottom line, rather than how things look and how things appear to fans. And there were a lot of fans who had a problem with Brock Lesnar coming back, and he's probably going to have a feud with John Cena coming before Cena retires before the end of the year. But it is what it is, and it's unfortunate that the WWE decided instead of err on the side of caution, just said, okay, well, Brock Lesnar, well, he's not named in the lawsuit, so that's good enough for us. So that's where we're
Right.
at.
Like Khan said as much that if it's not a serious charge being brought up, he doesn't give one iota about the lawsuits. So Nick Khan himself is obviously complicit in all of this. So,
Right.
we'll see how it goes with WWE. Obviously, I'm not saying they got blood on their hands, but obviously, the death of Hogan and bringing back Lesnar under these conditions certainly does not paint the WWE in a positive picture. Now, speaking of WWE, we're going to get to the next story. ESPN acquired the 10% of the NFL Network, and also on the same week or a week after, there's a news that they are partnering with WWE to bring the Premier Live event shows onto its ESPN platforms. Now, the live streaming, the ESPN is going full stream with their own standalone streaming service, which begins, I believe, this month.
Yes, later this month.
Starting at $30 a month. And obviously, that's going to probably go up incrementally, maybe within a year or so, as time goes by. Let me ask you, as somebody who obviously do this for a living, writing and editing and stuff like this, Ken, what were your thoughts on this news? Let's start with the WWE, since we were talking about Hulk Hogan's death. Obviously, Premier Live events, I'm assuming, is pretty much their pay-per-view, WrestleMania, and then a bunch of others that they do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for WWE fans moving forward? Do they have to now buy into ESPN on top of Peacock and other stuff that they're already paying to watch? The top tier pay-per-view events that they're already doing?
Well, let's clear some confusion on this. ESPN's price point is to subscribe will be $29.99 a month. There was confusion thinking that for PLEs that they would have to pay an additional $29.99. That is not the case. What you right now in the case with Peacock is that you just pay your subscription price, whether it's $6.99 a month or $9.99 a month or whatever you pay, and you get the you get the WWE PLEs like SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Clash in Paris, the events that normally are seen on regular television. Okay, so ESPN signed a huge multi-billion-dollar contract for the next few years with WWE to put those events now on ESPN, the standalone streaming service that'll be coming out, as you mentioned, later this month. So right now, that's all it's for. It's just for those events. Peacock still has right now the WWE library. Well, there was the thinking that because the thinking was that because WWE had signed with Netflix and had a lot of markets around the world, a lot of countries had access to not only Raw and other WWE programming, plus the PLEs, the Premier Live events, and the WWE library, the same thing would be happening, that WWE would sign with Netflix. But instead, apparently Disney came in with a big sweetheart deal, the money, and also the brand name that the WWE likes. And also ESPN has been covering the WWE down the line over the past few years, even with events on Peacock. So they figured, why not? Let's do a deal and put just the Premier Live events on ESPN only. Like I said, they subscribers to ESPN when it comes out will not have to pay extra. They're just going to have to pay $29.99 a month to get those events. And ESPN is hoping that while they are there, they will sample ESPN with the NFL, college football, college basketball, Major League Baseball, NBA, and stay, okay, and not just cancel their $29.99 each month as they go along. So we'll see what happens. This is probably a very good deal for WWE because, again, TKO, which is doing business already with ESPN for UFC, and will likely keep a part of its contract with ESPN going forward. They already have a pre-existing relationship, so this helps them out. Like I said, WWE fans will not have to pay extra to watch the PLEs, unlike what they'd have to do for the UFC pay-per-view matches. So we'll see how this goes. But again, the fans have gone from WWE Network, which they were paying $9.99 a month for, then to Peacock, which is about the same price, or $14.99, depending if you're going with the commercial-free tier, now up to $29.99. We'll see. WWE fans are rather loyal. They're known for being, following the organization from place to place. They've done that already. We'll see how this goes. But the one thing I will say about this, Stephen, is that ESPN is going to sign deals with cable and satellite providers. So, excuse me. So if you are a subscriber to like Comcast or YouTube TV or other pay TV providers, you may not have to pay extra for that. It may come as part of your subscription. So all you have to do is do your cable login. So we'll have to see. YouTube TV is supposed to be one of those. I have YouTube TV, so that would be good for me. But other people who are not part of a cable subscription will have to pay that $29.99 a month price.
I see. So people like me who has Sling TV and not the like a regular local cable, depending on where you are, Charter,
right,
Comcast, Time Warner, and so forth. Those people like myself, if I want to watch something like a pay-per-view, I would have to pay $29.99 out of my own pocket every time. Is that it?
You may. I don't know what Sling TV may have an agreement with ESPN. You just have to check. But down the line, they may sign an agreement, so you won't have to pay that extra.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, let's talk about the acquisition of the NFL Network. ESPN purchased 10% of the stake in the NFL Network. Excuse me. Obviously, with the NFL season upon us, there are a lot of questions obviously being asked about, is it good or bad for the consumers on this particular deal? One thing that I would like to see, of course, is that, the ESPN not mess it up with the NFL Red Zone in particular, Scott Hansen and a commercial-free 7 hours of football. And certainly ESPN can carry the NFL Network, or maybe vice versa. How does this impact the viewing experience? And do the fans have to pay more moving forward? Ken, what are your thoughts on this network deal acquisition, and how does this impact the viewing experience starting next month, in your opinion?
Well, this is what's going to happen, Stephen. So ESPN takes over NFL Network. They take ownership of it. This deal still has to get approved by the feds. So they're not going to take over right away. It's probably going to be sometime maybe at the end of next year, 2026, maybe earlier if the feds feel it's okay. In
this case, the feds, as in FCC, Federal Communications.
Not really. It's the FTC.
I'm sorry, FTC. That's what I meant to say. My apologies.
Yes. So that's what they're going to do. It's going to have to go through public comment and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens. If the deal is approved, it could close maybe a little bit earlier. But my guess is that it'll likely close at the end of 2026. But let's give you quick highlights of the deal. ESPN takes 100% ownership of NFL Network. They get rights to the NFL Red Zone name, meaning that they can use Red Zone for anything they want. They can use Red Zone for college football. They can use Red Zone for the NHL. They can use Red Zone for NBA. They can use the name. The NFL will continue to own the Red Zone channel and continue to operate it. So Scott Hansen will still continue. He's not an employee of ESPN. He will not be an employee of ESPN. He will still be with NFL. It's just NFL licensing is giving the name Red Zone to ESPN. ESPN will take over ownership of NFL Network. They'll run it like they do SEC Network, ACC Network, and other entities that they may other networks that may have ownership of. Um, so that means like Rich Eisen will become an ESPN employee once again. Um, they will, and in exchange, ESPN will get a few extra NFL games. They'll also give back a few games to NFL Network. But the main thing is this: is that NFL now takes a 10% stake in ESPN. So this means that, if you were hoping that ESPN would get locked out of the next NFL media contract, that's not going to be the case. They'll probably continue this in perpetuity. So, this is a deal that ESPN has been wanting because they wanted NFL Network to be part of their ESPN. Again, we're talking about that streaming services that's coming out later this month. NFL Network would be part of that, although not this year. It has to wait until it closes. But in addition, as part of other parts of this deal, other offshoots is that ESPN keeps the NFL draft. Like I said, they'll get 4 extra games that they get to air, 3 extra games that they get to air as part of their schedule. They give back. Remember those games in which they had 2 games on Monday night? Those games stopped this season. They will not have concurrent games on Monday nights. So those 4 games go back, and the NFL can sell them. So we'll see how this goes, Stephen. But again, for the consumer, they're not going to see any change, at least not yet. If someone in the White House feels that he wants to get involved, like he has with Paramount and firing Stephen Colbert, we'll see how this goes.
But he certainly has an axe to grind, and we can mention Donald Trump's name because obviously his noted lawsuit, with the USFL when he owned the New Jersey Generals versus the NFL. We all know that he has an axe to grind with the NFL because of its payments.
Right. So we'll see how this goes. I am not 100% sure that this may go through all the way. I think there'll probably be some conditions latched onto this. Disney will have to bend the knee somehow to that guy. I don't like to mention his name, so I'm just going to say that guy in the White House, Stephen. But again, consumers will not see any difference right now. They will not see any difference, at least because ESPN can't touch NFL Network, at least right now. They'll probably continue to have separate draft coverage next year when it's I think it's next year when it's in Pittsburgh. So we'll see how that goes. But after that, going forward, if the deal gets approved, which likely it will, but probably won't be until late 2026, we'll see some effects of that, and we'll see how ESPN decides to run NFL Network because NFL Network is running out of Los Angeles. ESPN will likely want to use those studios to have NBA coverage and other stuff. If you remember, they closed their Los Angeles studios earlier this year. So having that in SoFi Stadium might give them an opportunity to reopen the Los Angeles base again. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think the consumer, though, again, $29.99 to pay extra for those people who aren't cable subscribers, or if their cable provider isn't having a deal with ESPN, that might be a price point that might be too high. Some people say that ESPN is actually keeping it low, but compared to other streaming services, again, it's another streaming service that you have to pay to watch NFL games. When you just remember when back in the 90s, all we had to do was subscribe to a cable service and all the games would be there. Now they're going to be all over the place, especially if you're a never was cable subscriber, Stephen. So again, the consumer has to pay high prices, and as you mentioned, ESPN will likely raise prices because to continue to get content and continue to help finance their deals with the sports leagues. They're going to have to likely pass on the price to the consumer. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, the worst possible case in this, is it's getting more and more expensive to watch sports. You think going to a sporting event is even more expensive with the tickets, parking and concessions, etc. Even if it's just for one person, you take family of 4 or 5, it's like you're taking literally, half of your monthly salary or something.
Right.
So in some cases, so a lot of people enjoy watching the game from the comforts of their home without having to deal with so much of the traffic, parking, and then waiting in line to get a popcorn or a beer or whatever. And it's getting more and more expensive to do that, even from your own, the comforts of your own home. So, we talked about this before you went on vacation. When Pablo Torre, pointed out about the expense, how expensive it is to, be a sports fan in this country right now. And one of the things that I think a lot of people are starting to kind of worry about is that NFL will eventually, the games are being so spread out with, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all having different games and different, sets. It's already stretched out. So now you're going to be forced to, we may have touched on this. We have to probably buy like a separate games now we might have to pay, our own team separately, like say $4.99, $5.99 to watch a game, every week, and then it's only going to get more and more expensive because they're trying to stretch thin as much as possible, like what they're doing with live streaming, and eventually, and I think a lot of people are worried about this, you might have to pay to watch a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, is this a legitimate concern in your opinion? Because I do believe that that's where we're heading, and it just makes it more and more difficult for fans to enjoy, watching sports, no matter where they do, whether it's going to a stadium or now even watching it from your own home.
I do think that the NFL will likely be on Amazon sometime. Not the Amazon, but the Super Bowl will likely be on Amazon. And of course, that's a pay. You have to pay for extra for that as part of your Amazon Prime package and your Amazon subscription. I do think that's where it's headed because the streamers want to be part of that. Whether it goes pay-per-view, I don't think it's going to get to that part, but I do think that you'll see eventually Amazon be part of the Super Bowl rotation. And that's going to be shocking for a lot of fans who are used to seeing them on broadcast television. Eventually down the road, will it become a pay-per-view event? Maybe, probably. I don't think it's going to be sooner than later. I do think it's maybe 10 years down the road. But I do think that, Stephen, the next NFL contract is going to be one to watch. The NFL can opt out of its deal in 2029. It right now currently runs until 2032, but the NFL can run it, can opt out of it early. They've said, Roger Goodell has already said that he feels that the NFL deal is already undervalued and he wants more money. One other thing that we haven't mentioned, and one thing that wasn't been highly reported, is that the NFL also took a 10% stake in CBS. So CBS is going to be likely staying with the NFL for quite some time. So, but where are we going to see the games? Will Netflix take more of a role with an international package, 16 games when we go to an 18-game schedule? Most likely. Are we going to see a streaming service take over the 4 o'clock games while the networks keep the 1 o'clock? That's a highly possibility, and that's something that we wrote about in at Awful Announcing. I would not be surprised to see if Amazon or Netflix or even Disney Plus takes over that, or the ESPN standalone streaming service takes over that 4 o'clock game, which is very popular to run into Sunday Night Football. So it's as you mentioned, it's more expensive. Fans are getting priced out. And if we continue to see streaming services take roles, as we know, YouTube TV is going to be coming into YouTube is going to be streaming the Brazil game this season. So that's another extra. And they did say it was going to be for free. So that's a good thing. But still, Stephen, I'm very concerned about the fact that about the streaming services that are taking more of a role in sports. Netflix already has the rights to the 2027 and 2031 Women's World Cup for the United States. They want to get the World Baseball Classic, the Japan rights there. That's going to be a concern. So, and they know how popular that has been in Japan. Those numbers in Japan have been great. So,
Yep.
it's one thing or another, and they're flexing their muscles, and it's going to be very difficult for the traditional networks to keep up and compete because these streamers have an unload. They do have right now. They have unlimited pockets right now where they can make these prices and make bids for sporting events that we were used to watching on traditional television.
Yeah, there's no question the streamers and the tech companies are wielding their muscles, and only the loser in all of this is the consumers, you and I, which obviously is becoming more and more prevalent with the way they're influencing our society, as well as the elections and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a tough time right now to be a sports fan, and being priced out certainly is not the norm, or I don't want people to think that that's an acceptable norm moving forward, as things continue to get more and more expensive all across, not just in this country but also from a global perspective. All right, let's move on to go ahead. Do you have any final thoughts on that? I apologize.
Yeah, and I'll also be writing about this. And I haven't written in my Substack for several months, but this is big enough so that I'm going to be writing a Substack about this tonight. And those of you who are subscribers, you'll see that coming up tomorrow morning on my Substack.
All right, I'll look forward to that. All right, let's move on to another subject that's probably something more of in your wheelhouse, Ken. Shedeur Sanders shines, obviously, in his very first game, obviously a preseason game nonetheless, but he did play pretty well against the Carolina Panthers on Friday. As a noted Browns fan, Ken, are you encouraged by what you saw with the way Sanders played? I know people were talking about he was being set up to fail, and there were a lot of noises. Obviously, most noticeably the Cleveland media, one particularly coming from Tony Grossi of ESPN Cleveland.
Right.
What were your thoughts on Sanders's performance, and do you feel like are you encouraged by it, or do you still feel like you want to see more before you make a concrete judgment?
Well, I was encouraged, I have to say. Of course, we have to remember this is Carolina Panthers, whose defense is just absolutely awful. Had he played against the Philadelphia Eagles, which he's going to do this week, Stephen, we'll probably see a different result. But the fact is, Sanders showed some touch on his passes. He made some pretty decent decisions. He's got to learn that when he runs backwards, he's got to get rid of the ball, because when you run backwards against an NFL defense, you're going to lose 30 yards. So he's got to learn that. I think he's going to learn that pretty quickly. He did say the right things. He did say that he felt he didn't play well enough. He felt that he gave himself a C in his interview with post-game interview with Aditi Kinkhabwala on ABC5 in Cleveland, which carried the game. Chris Rose and Joe Thomas called the game, and it was on NFL Network, which you may have seen on Friday night. I was encouraged, but again, we have to temper this. Again, we have to be careful and be careful about preseason, because again, while he was playing against the number one defense in the first half, we also have to remember this is the Carolina Panthers, who are a bad football team. It was good to get his feet wet against that particular team. Against the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a very difficult offense, which is coming up, that's not going to be easy. So we'll probably see some mistakes. We'll probably see some picks. We'll probably see some sacks. They'll probably make him look bad, which is what the Eagles did which they did against Kansas City. So in the Super Bowl. So I have to say that we're going to against Patrick Mahomes, and we know that Patrick Mahomes is an excellent quarterback, and he has miles on Shedeur Sanders. So we'll have to wait and see on that one, Stephen. But again, some good decisions, good touch on his passes. I enjoyed what I saw, and I also saw that he was humble, something that we haven't seen from him or heard about him since the draft, since he was coming in with a pretty arrogant attitude of saying, "Look, I'm the one that coming to the draft. You need to pick me. Not it's not what I can do for you. It's what you can do for me. That's probably one of the reasons why he sank so low back in the draft, and we discussed it ad nauseum back then. But I have to wait. I have to say that first of all, he said that he didn't want his dad to come in and cause a spectacle. That's a good thing. He's already said that he wants to. He's according to what I hear, he's saying all the right things in the locker room. The receivers like him. The offensive line likes him, which is why they played so well for him. I think also too. But again, it's only the first preseason game. I don't think he should be starting week 1, Steven. We have 4 quarterbacks. We've got a lot of people there. We got Joe Flacco. We got Kenny Pickett. We also got people from So we also have the quarterback from Oregon too. So we just again wait and see. He will start sometime this season. It's just not going to be week 1, nor does he deserve to start week 1.
I'm going to play a clip here, which I'm sure you're aware of. Sanders confronting Tony Grossi after the game. Let's see if I can play a clip here.
Tony, I be hoping you be. Tony, I be hoping you got some positive to say about me. You only say negative stuff about me. And I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you. No. I ain't see nothing positive that you ever said. I think I'm positive every day. What up, Tony? Come on, Tony. What I do? What I do to you, Tony?
All right, hold on a second. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Your thoughts?
I mean, Tony Grossi has been there a long time, Stephen. As you can see, the white hair. Tony Grossi goes back to the 80s.
I honestly thought that was the Browns owner who vehemently denied he had nothing to do with the pick or something. But I apologize for interrupting that.
Yeah, that's okay. But I have to say that Shedeur, he's a younger guy. Tony Grossi has been around for a long time. I think that the fact is that Shedeur came up and just said, "Hey, look, what's the deal?" They joked about it at the end, but it's fine. I think though it's going to be an interesting relationship between Tony Grossi, Mary Kay Cabot, the Cleveland media, which has been very jaded over some of the things, and of course we have an owner, Stephen, who doesn't know what he's doing. The Haslams, you know how I feel about them. I've said it many times on this show, but we'll see how it goes. I feel that, Stephen, that Shedeur Sanders can be a breath of fresh air. He is only signed for $4 million over the next 4 years because of how low he was picked. He doesn't have the first round money. So if Deshaun Watson gets cut, the Cleveland Browns save a lot of money over the next 4 years, especially with Shedeur Sanders. Especially if he starts to leapfrog over those quarterbacks, and he's locked in at 4 years. He's not. The Browns they can grip up the contract and renegotiate down the line. But if Shedeur Sanders tries to do that, I don't think the Browns are gonna like that. But right now, if he is able to leapfrog over the 3 quarterbacks right now who are above the 3 or 4 quarterbacks that are above him, the Browns save a lot of money, and I think the Browns are going to love that.
Yeah, next week is going to be very interesting because I know Dylan Gabriel will have to get some action to determine, what's his place in the roster. Is he, can he outplay Shedeur Sanders? I think the onus is on him, of course. Kenny Pickett is still injured. Who knows if he'll be playing next week against Philadelphia? His former team that he basically was the guy sitting on a bench, but still ended up winning the Super Bowl ring. So we'll see how that goes. Joe Flacco was basically sitting comfortably, being interviewed during the game, all smiles. I would still probably guess that Flacco will be the starter barring an injury. And Shedeur will probably be number 2 or number 3, depending on how poor or how well Kenny Pickett plays. I think Dylan Gabriel, unfortunately, is the odd man out, depending on how he plays next week in week 2. So, I'm sure Shedeur will get his share of snaps. And if he still outperforms anybody, Dylan Gabriel for that matter, no matter, whether he plays in the first quarter or second quarter, I think the odds of Sanders sticking with the team, of course, increases. And probably more than likely, he will start at some point during the regular season, in my opinion.
I agree. He's going to. I think he'll start sometime. Maybe the season is not going to be a great one for Cleveland. I'm not very optimistic about, especially with the way the Baltimore and Pittsburgh, with their quarterback situation very much solidified. I'm going to have to say that Cleveland again is going to be looking up at the division. Maybe they can do some outperforming and finish third, but I doubt it. So. The Bengals are going to be tough too this season. Hopefully they get off. If they get, I hope no. Hopefully they get off to a bad start like they did last season. If they do, that's fine. But I'm going to have to say that Cleveland's going to be looking up at those 3 teams, and if that's the case, I would say that Shedeur would probably be starting sometime in week 12, and then it'll be his team after that. So we have to wait and see. But I like I said, I am cautiously optimistic. I was happy about what I saw. Some of his decisions were good. He made some good passes. But again, let's temper that by knowing it's the Carolina Panthers. Had he done this, starting off against a tougher defense, we probably would have not seen that, and doubt would have started creeping in. But this is a good sign. I'm sure that there's going to be overreaction tomorrow on Monday when all the first takes and Colin Cowherd and all the other shows. Overreaction Mondays. That's why it's called Overreaction Monday, Stephen, because people are going to overreact to the show to Shedeur Sanders, and they've had 2 days to percolate on their opinions.
Move on to the next topic. I combined these two, obviously, because it's sexism to the embarrassing level. We had WNBA sex toy controversy where in recent weeks we've seen some people throw sex toys onto the court, which later I believe it was the Athletic or some outlets that revealed this whole thing was a setup for a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, tech bros.
Yep. And you mentioned about racism against Jess Carter on the English women's soccer team that obviously finished off winning the Euros a couple of weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Why don't you start off with the Jess Carter thing there?
Yep. So one thing that I was following while I was in Japan was the women's Euros, and England would won its second consecutive women's Euros tournament and championship. And again, congratulations to the England team. Serena Wiegman is a tremendous coach. She gets her team prepared. There's no doubt that England has to be considered as a potential favorite for the World Cup in 2027, along with England. There were some very bad performances by some favorites. France went out in the quarterfinals. Germany went out in the semifinals. 2 teams that were potential winners in this. But England, despite losing its first group game against France, then managed to get out of the group, but then had some very difficult elimination games, Stephen. They fell behind in all 3 games, had to come back. They had to play extra time in all 3. They went to penalties against Sweden. They wanted the death right before the penalties against Italy in the semi, and then won again in PKs in the final. So really, hats off to England. When you win like that, you deserve to win. So, PKs isn't the best thing, but the issue against Jess Carter, which is she missed a penalty kick against Sweden, and the racism was absolutely horrid. She had to delete her X account or Twitter account. It really was unnecessary because, why England fans have done this before. They did this again against black players, the men players who missed PKs in the final against Italy in 2021 in the Euros as well. So in the men's Euros. So this is just ugly, really, really terrible things that England still hasn't. I know that people talk about how diverse the population in London and England is, but still there's racism. There's still a problem. It's a problem here in the United States as well. But Jess Carter, luckily, she had the support of her team. She at the end of the win that England when England won, Stephen, against Spain, by the way, which defeated them in the Women's World Cup a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago in actually it was last year. I'm sorry, it was 2024 in 2023. I'm getting my years straight. 2023. It was in Australia. They got some revenge against Spain this year. But again, Jess Carter said that look, she felt nervous about playing in the final. She felt that she was really scared to see that Serena Wiegmann put her name as the starter, but then as she saw the support from her parents and the team, she felt more comfortable. No player should feel that uncomfortable about starting a game, Stephen, because of the reaction of fans. That is absolutely unnecessary. I credit that her team, which is mostly white, came out and supported her and said, "This is our teammate. This is our sister. We support her." Even though she missed a kick, we have her support. We have her back. She's a key member of this team. She scored a lot of goals before this. She's going to continue to score goals for us. So it doesn't matter what you think as fans, but you can't make that statement. So I give credit to them. But again, Stephen, nobody should feel nervous before a game to see and be afraid to see their name on the starting lineup because of racism, and that's just absolutely really horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. The racism and sexism kind of go hand in hand nowadays. It's becoming becoming a much more and more problematic, and it's becoming a sick joke, fortunately. So the soccer especially is becoming, as the women's soccer becomes much more of a becoming a more and more well accepted, and the popularity has increased to a degree. Everything that they do and say becomes magnified, and there are a lot of people who don't like it, unfortunately. And then there's a story, of course, a WNBA sex toy controversy where multiple sex toys have been thrown onto the court while the game was being played. And it looks like it is they think that it's a harmless foul, but it turns out it is a crypto scheme that they're, it is a link to the cryptocurrency that and they wanted to get the, any sorts of publicity out of it. And I think it's also becoming it's a joke, and it's becoming a society where things like this, it's becoming a little, becoming a more and more prevalent, unfortunately. It's not a joke, of course, and it really needs to be taken seriously about making threats on women's sports or female athletes. And unfortunately, WNBA has been on the wrong end of the controversy for the last few years, Ken.
Yeah, this is just as the WNBA's profile is getting higher. The horrible thing, Stephen, is that we see that he's organized this really, and it is an attack, basically. These tech bros, decided that we're going to throw dildos on the court, and we're good. It's going to be funny to us and try to raise the cryptocurrency. No, and you could hurt somebody. Well, what if and this was mentioned by players as well? What if it hits somebody, or what if somebody steps on it and twists an ankle or breaks an ankle,
Right.
or God forbid towards an ACL? Luckily, that didn't happen, and luckily the WNBA took action and banned these fans for a year. But it should be longer than that. It really should be for life, because you shouldn't be. I mean, we've seen dildos be thrown at NFL games. It's one thing to throw it at NFL games, and if luckily a couple of times in Buffalo, they didn't hit the field. They didn't get far enough to go to the field and went on the sideline. But still, you just can't have that fan behavior. I don't know what causes these tech bros to think that, oh, let's see what we can get and get money and get and do an organized thing to raise the profile. I mean, it's like the guy who I forget his name who bought the Wu-Tang Clan album for himself, and refused to let it be. And also the same guy who raised money who raised the price on insulin. So because he just felt that he could do so. That's a guy you want to punch in the mouth, Stephen. So I don't advise. I don't endorse violence against somebody, but that's just ridiculous. You can't have things like that, Stephen. And it just angers me that people just think that they're so entitled that they can do that. I feel that the WNBA should have taken swifter action, but instead of just banning the fans who threw that, the men who threw that on the court for a year, it should have been longer. It should have been for life.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how WNBA and the feds will treat this case. Obviously, it needs to be taken very, very seriously, and that whoever is involved in it, they all need to be, given a swift, justice and be treated as such. All right, let's talk about the Major League Baseball after the deadline. The trade deadline has kind of gone already 2 weeks ago, and less than 2 weeks ago, and we're starting to see the teams that made the moves are starting to the regular the teams that are in the playoffs made the moves, and then there's starting to gain tractions. My Cubs are fallen way behind, unfortunately, because of the offensive struggles. Milwaukee is on this incredible, crazy run. They literally swept the Mets again after literally trailing the entire game, and somehow they lucked into winning all 3 games. And they have 4.5 games on the Cubs right now. Meanwhile, the Mets are 1-11 in the last 12 games. The other New York teams, the Yankees, have completely fallen off apart. Even with the trade deadline, it hasn't really given the jolt that team needed. You're in the Red Sox country. People are up in arms over failing to get Joe Ryan, and then just basically made some minor moves. A couple of them, they're still have a much better record than the New York Yankees right now, and the wild card chase right now. So I know you probably may have not paid much attention to the baseball so far after the trade deadline, Ken. But what are your thoughts on the run that the Brewers are having right now? And does that kind of change your perspective about who the National League, the favorite is? Obviously, I said it's the Dodgers because they're the defending champions, and they've had their struggles, unfortunately, this year with all the injuries to the pitching, but they did what they could, and they still have a lot of talent. Does that change your mind about maybe Milwaukee is going to somehow steal the NL, or do you feel like they're peaking too soon? because we know that the regular season records mean nothing in the baseball playoffs anymore, right?
Mhm. Well, Milwaukee, it's an amazing story. I mean, they're a small market
Yep.
team. Uh, they weren't figured to do much. It was thought that the Cubs are going to try, because at the time when I left, the Cubs are doing very well, Stephen, in the Central Division. And now we see Milwaukee with this 9-1 streak. As you mentioned, they swept the Mets. Milwaukee's being flooded, literally flooded. They're dealing with flooding right now.
Yeah.
But their park, American Family Insurance Park, has a roof, so fans could still come out. It's a great story, and if Milwaukee can continue this right now, I think they have the best league. They have the best record in the National League at 73-44. The Dodgers are 68-49. So if we take a look at the wild card, Stephen, right now it's the Brewers with the best record in the National League, followed by the Dodgers, and then the Phillies. Your Cubs, they're right now in the last 5 games have been playing 500. But I gotta say, it's, as we know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Milwaukee's playing great baseball. There's no denying that. But if they can, we still have to see how they play in September. Anything can happen. They could still fall apart. But right now, it's the Cubs that are leading the wild card, and that's where you want to be. You want to get in the tournament. It doesn't matter where you finish, because as we have seen before, the Red Sox actually won as a wild card in 2004 after the Yankees won the division. So, we've seen this happen. We've seen division leaders get stale by waiting, having the bye, thinking that the bye was going to be good, and then losing in the first round of the playoffs to the wild card teams. The Dodgers actually did this before too, before they started on their recent run. So let's congratulate Milwaukee on this great run. Let's see if it's sustainable. The Mets are being very Metsy, and they just can't get anything done. This is a team that is an owner who wants to spend, Steve Cohen, but it looks like he's not spending in the right place. And as you mentioned, the Yankees just seem to be dropping off. There's a lot of frustration, but as I've seen before, with the Yankees, they can get hot, but right now there's no confidence that they can do that. But we'll see. The Red Sox have surprised me. They didn't do anything at the trading deadline. They got heavily criticized for it, but they're in the wild card chase, and they're 3 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays, who are doing fantastically well, and fans in Canada are very happy about that, and they should be. So, and they just played the Dodgers in their weekend series too. So, it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be this is going to be a fun last month and a half as we go further towards the playoffs, Stephen.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, because right now, from an American League perspective, I don't know if there's anybody who is going to emerge from the American League right now, Ken. Toronto is currently leading the Dodgers 5-4, top 9 right now. Let's see if they can avoid a sweep there. Here in Michigan, where I live, the Detroit Tigers have gone off on a really bad nosedive, and now they're only about 5 games ahead of the Cleveland Guardians in the American League Central. Houston has kind of dropped down recently, but now I think they swept the Yankees. Actually, it took 2 out of 3 against these streaking Yankees right now. I don't know who's going to be really emerging from the American League as of right now. Toronto would be a very good Cinderella story, but I have a feeling, sneaky suspicion that, if it's when it's all said and done, I would think that it would probably be the Houston Astros, because of their past experience, that could probably emerge from the American League as of right now, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that. They still have Altuve. They still have some parts that are still there from the championship teams, and of course, while Houston thrives on being the villain due to their cheating scandal, and they got basically slaps on the wrist for it. They still have the nucleus there that can go on a massive run, and can win a championship. You know, I'm still skeptical of the Blue Jays, but you know, I like a good story. I would love to see Canada do well. Canada still hasn't won with the NHL. The Blue Jays can be holding up that banner for Canada if they get into the playoffs and if they get the bye. We'll see how that happens. But again, they held up pretty well against the Dodgers this weekend. So you know, and as you mentioned, they're leading 5-4 in the ninth. So we'll see. We'll wait and see how they do there. Of course, it was great to see Scherzer and Kershaw square off on Friday night. The two pitchers, right now who are active, who have 3,000 strikeouts. So that's fun. That was fun to see. So you know, I wait and see, Stephen. You know, I of course we can't definitively say that the teams leading in the division are going to be definitely there come October and getting the buys, because these things can happen really quickly and we can see how teams can collapse.
Especially with the wild card, you know, with the seeding changed, top two seeds more than likely they're going to have to wait for the you know, the wild card to get over, and that usually takes about, you know, close to a week, and you lose your momentum and edge.
Absolutely,
this is
100%.
why you're seeing, you know, a lot of upsets
Right.
in baseball, where you know, you've seen Arizona with a 84-78 record somehow get to the World Series 2 years ago. And things like that has happened before, and probably more than likely is going to happen moving forward, unless they expand the playoffs, which still could happen when it's all said and done. And you know, when they, you know, expand to 32 teams, where, you know, like half of the you know, leagues in each leagues can even, you know, make it to the postseason nowadays, you know, just for, you know, more revenue aspect of it. So we'll see what happens. You know, still got a couple more weeks to go, a couple, you know, this month and then next month. We'll see how the rest of the baseball season you know, moves forward. Michael reposted the stream. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it. All right, now it's our final segment, the final word. I'm going to start with a couple of news that's pertaining to the Asian world. Ichiro Suzuki made it to the Hall of Fame last month. Good for him. First Asian player to ever get inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was also honored in Seattle. I believe it was today or yesterday. His number was retired, number 51, the same number as, you know, the great Randy Johnson wore. Seems to be a very good lucky number there for anybody who wears 51. But, you know, obviously that number will no longer be worn by anybody else. Good for the Mariners, and you know, really, really happy for Ichiro to, you know, for somebody who got his late start at 27 when he came into the league, or you know, to, you know, get to 3,000 hits and in the major leagues, and that's a record that will probably not be broken by anybody else anytime soon. Congratulations. Another big news over the weekend was the LAFC adding Son Heung-min from the Tottenham Hotspur. He came on late yesterday against Chicago Fire, got a penalty kick, you know, for his probably one of very few touches that he got. You know, he was probably tired, jet lagged and everything, and yet he still made a mark for himself. Unfortunately, there was a LA councilwoman who confused Son Heung-min, who thought that he was going to play for the U.S. soccer national team and helping U.S. to win a you know, World Cup, and just a sheer stupidity that you know, soccer is, unfortunately, has not been well received. And I understand that there's the argument that, you know, she happens to represent the area where, you know, Koreatown is one of her districts, but still, it's not a good look. And you know, unfortunate, you know, Son Heung-min had to deal with that embarrassment. You know, hopefully, I'm sure that you know, the World Cup being here next year, excuse me, had some you know, decision for Son Heung-min to probably get a head start in getting used to the American environment. Obviously, his age at 33, even if he had stayed in Tottenham, I think one more year, he probably would have left the Tottenham Hotspur anyway. And he chose U.S. over, Saudi Arabia, which was obviously going after him. So, with the, Korea population in L.A. being very strong, I'm very excited to see what Son Heung-min has to offer. Maybe not the kind of impact that, Lionel Messi had when he came into the MLS a year ago, but I still expect him to kind of, put up some very good numbers for, LAFC moving forward. And Ken, any final thoughts for you?
Yeah, I'm going to quickly just give you my impressions or my last word about Taiwan and Japan. First of all, Stephen, jokingly, it was very hot, as you well know. This time of year, it's very hot. I think my sister tried to kill me by doing hikes in the Taiwanese mountains and also seeing the Imperial Palace in Tokyo at 91 degrees. But joking aside, the Taiwanese people and the Japanese people are very nice. And I'm very impressed by the cleanliness. Excuse me, I'm sorry. By the cleanliness, by the friendliness, by the politeness of everybody there. They want to help you. Even if you don't speak the language, they're very happy to help out. Also, too, as I mentioned, I went to see a baseball game between the Yomiuri Giants and their main rival, Stephen.
Shin Tigers, yeah.
The Tigers, the Hanshin Tigers. It was great to watch. The Tokyo Dome was packed on a Monday afternoon. It was 2:00 in the afternoon when I went to see them. Fans are engaged with their thunder sticks and their chants. I highly encourage anybody to go, even if you don't know the players, just go and watch for the atmosphere. You'll see fans are just chanting, they're singing, they know they're very, especially the Tigers and the Giants. It's kind of like Red Sox and Yankees here. The rivalry is there, and the Hanshin Tiger fans travel very well. It was half and half, Stephen. It was half Tigers fans and half Giants fans. And where I was sitting in the Tigers section, what was funny is that the Tigers went out to a 5-0 lead, and they had a player who was hitting 100, who hit a tying. They were down 5-2 in the 7th inning. He came up and hit a 3-run homer, and to tie the game. And then in the 9th inning, the Giants won. And so I was fist bumping the Giants fans in the Tigers section who were there. But it was a lot of fun. Fans. I
think they got the glimpse of it earlier this year when the Dodgers and the Cubs played in Japan, and both teams play both Giants and the Tigers as a kind of like a prep exhibition. Yeah.
Yep. But I highly, if you go to Japan, if you're going in the summertime or the spring or late fall, go to the game. Go to a game in wherever a Japanese baseball game, wherever it is, because I think you'll be you'll enjoy it. The food is great. The food is cheap, not like the concessions here. You can use your Suica card, or you can use it's all electronic. You just have to use your debit card or your credit card, or some cases your Suica card. So it was a lot of fun, Stephen. And I just have to say that it was great to go to see relatives I haven't seen in a long time in Taiwan and in Japan. Again, the cleanliness and the efficiency of both countries' subway systems and mass transportation. The United States can definitely learn a lesson from that. And I have to say that it was great to go to Japan and spend some time. And my nephew loves the Pokemon centers in Tokyo. I think we hit every single one of them. So he was fun. He was happy with that. But I have to say, Japan is a lovely country, and I will definitely go back again.
Thank you for your time. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'm very happy that you enjoyed your time. I hope you were, refreshed and feeling great. And thank you for your time. Thanks for the your overall thoughts on the vacation. And thanks to people joining us today. Obviously, in the middle of the summer, 87 people. Thank you very much. I know there was somebody who asked me some questions on the SNL, my ex, asking me questions about. I believe it came from Matt Layden. Let me share this post.
Matt, I know him.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Let me share this just one last time.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Any chance Fox Sports could hire away ESPN Bob and Dave Fleming from ESPN to replace Connor Onion? I think it's a little more difficult because obviously Bob, as he's referring to, is Bob Wischusen, who is the versatile play-by-play announcer with ESPN. He's also known as the voice of the Jets during the regular football season as well. So it's I think ESPN New York. He's under contract with the Jets. Certainly, I think it would be very difficult to lure him away, especially in such a short amount of time. I don't know the contract status. Same with Dave Fleming, who does the ESPN college football, and he's also mainly known for calling the San Francisco Giants game, right?
Yeah, he calls it Giants, and I think he also calls Stanford basketball games too, Stephen. So I don't see Dave Fleming being replaced or anything like that. I don't know what Matt comes up with some far-fetched ideas. I'm going to say he also doesn't like Joe Davis. He wants Al Michaels to replace him. That's not happening. So I hate to say this, but Joe Davis is well liked by Fox. He's going to call the World Series, and I know that you don't like him as the second NFL announcer, Matt, but he's not going anywhere.
All right. On that note, we'll end. We'll put an end to this show. It's great to be back with you, Ken, again, and thank you very much for all of you tuning in to our show. As always, we'll be back again Sunday afternoons, 6 o'clock. It was, obviously normal, different than the usual time that we have set for at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. But Ken, thanks for your time tonight. Great to do this. Great to be back with you again, and look forward to doing this again next week as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Stephen. And of course, we'll get closer to NFL action. We'll talk. We didn't get to talk about the Bears today, but I know that you probably were. Hopefully, you were encouraged by them with their tie against Miami. But we'll see how they do next week, and of course, we'll have some more content to talk about, and we'll see how Shedeur Sanders, and we'll see how the quarterback situation is for the Cleveland Browns. All that coming up next week.
All right. Till then, we'll see you next time on the Double A Team podcast live stream. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.